OH,
Ayo!
OH.
Ayo!
What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of the SO Show. The Ohio State Buckeyes defeat the Texas Longhorns 28-14. Now, everybody and me too, this should have been the national championship game. I'm not gonna lie. This was probably one of the better games we've seen in a not a long time, but in a while. This was a real good game, and this easily could have been a national championship game. Now, this did take place. This was the Cotton Bowl Classic. It took place down in Texas. So, you know what that meant? All of Texas was rooting for, of course, their home team, the Texas Longhorns. So all of Texas was in there. It was probably a couple Ohio State fans, but for the most part, Texas fans definitely filled that stadium up, and I'm pretty sure it was sold out. Now, let's get into the stats line. We had Will Howard completing 24 passes on 33 attempts, 289 yards, and he threw a touchdown. Travion Henderson had a 75-yard touchdown little screen pass right before the halftime. Carnell Tate was a big difference in this game too. He had 7 catches, 87 yards. He didn't have a touchdown, but again, his game was really, he was really involved in that offense, especially because Jeremiah Smith, which we will talk about a little bit towards the end of the video, but I'll probably make a separate video on that. But Jeremiah Smith, breakout freshman, he was smothered. He had 1 catch for 3 yards. It wasn't a good day in the office for him, but I'll get later on into that. Anyway, Kashawn Junkins, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. And yeah, that was pretty much that whole offense right there. For the Texas Longhorns, Quinn Ewers had 20. He completed 23 passes on 39 attempts, 283 yards and 2 touchdowns, and I think he had 2 interceptions. No, I don't even know. Jaden Blue had 2 touchdowns. Now let's start with the first half. Ohio State, they were the most dominant ones coming out of that first half. Now the score necessarily didn't reflect that because it was only 14-7 coming out of the first half. But if you actually watched the game, you could see that Ohio State's defense carried them that whole first half. Quinn Ewers did not have an answer for that defense, that defensive line in particular. He did not have an answer for them. Ohio State defense, they did a great job. The corners and the defensive back, they did a great job of sticking to all of the Texas receivers. Texas receivers could not get any. There was little room. There was little room for the offensive receivers for the Texas Longhorns. Even if Texas Longhorns, even if the receivers caught a ball over that defense, it was still a hard, tough catch for them to even catch regardless. So the defense did a great job of shutting down that whole Texas offense that first half. Quinn Ewers could not find the answer, and he was just running for his life a lot of times. Offensive side of the ball, Will Howard did a great job of moving the ball. The momentum was definitely like pushing. They kept the tempo of the offense real high. Will Howard was just gunslinging. The first man he saw open, he threw it to, and that was a lot of time. It was always Ibuka, receiver. Ohio State receiver, Emeka Ibuka. He had a lot of a great short-term catches. He was, coming off the slants, coming off the drag routes. You have Carnell Tate again. He was targeted a lot that first half, and yeah, like the Ohio State's offense did a real good job of keeping things momentum. Even though Ohio State offense necessarily couldn't score that first half, they had a lot of success. I just think it's funny how this game was so fairly even. Because if you look at the team stat line, Texas had 20 first downs. Ohio State had 18. That was less than 2. Both teams they were not efficient on third down. Ohio State was 3 for 10 for third down conversions. Texas was 5 for 15 for third down conversions. They both punted 6 times equally. And the penalties, Ohio State did have 9 penalties to Texas 5 penalties. But again, Ohio State's offense was just so high-powered, especially that first half. They were so high-powered that it kind of like overrid all those penalties that they did face, that they did take. So this was a fairly even game, I will say that. But going into the second half, it was completely different. That whole first half, the defense, Ohio State's defense was all over Quinn Ewers and that whole Texas offense. They could not get any momentum down. It was a little dink and dunks here and there, but they couldn't really necessarily get into the end zone. And that was towards halftime. So I want to get into that. Towards halftime, Texas finally found the end zone right before half with 30 seconds left. They tied the game with 7-7. They finally scored 7-7. Boom. Now this is where things go crazy. With 30 seconds left, right before half, Ohio State, first play of the game. They on their own, what? It was on their own 16, 17. Ohio State was. First play of the game. Will Howard, they just throw a little screen pass just to see what it is. Mind you, it's only 30 seconds left on the clock. There's not really much you can really do with 30 seconds left going into the half. You don't want to do too much. So Will Howard just threw a little screen pass straight to TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson ended up just finding one little cut, one little seam, that one block, and he was off. 75-yard touchdown. Ohio State ended up taking the lead 17. I keep saying 17. Ohio State ended up taking the lead, making the lead 14-7 going into halftime. Mind you, again, it wasn't even supposed to be. Ohio State, it was impossible for Ohio State to even score before half, but they ended up still doing it. And yeah, they took the lead going into halftime. Now, again, third quarter, once the second half started, everything kind of like switched. Now, Texas, and shout out to the Texas head coach, shout out to that offensive coordinator. They adjusted. They adjusted their second half. Texas Longhorns did a real good job of adjusting to Ohio State's defense because, again, Quinn Ewers could not get a pass off. He was always under duress. But, again, going into the second half, they adjusted. They did a real good job. Quinn Ewers picked up momentum, a lot of momentum, and he was running around, picking up first downs. He made a lot of good third down conversions when they did, even though they didn't have too much success converting on third down. That second half, they did a real good job of moving the ball up the field and actually producing, points and everything. Texas defense for the second half was, again, they were better than ever. They adjusted to Will Howard's game, and they started pressuring Will Howard even more because, again, first half, they just somehow the defensive line, Texas defensive line could not get to Will Howard that whole first half. They didn't really have too much success on pressuring Will Howard and forcing him throws. But they did a real good job. The Texas defensive coordinator did a real good job of adjusting to Will Howard's game and adjusting to, the Ohio State Buckeyes offense. And Texas defense did a real good job of keeping Will Howard in the box. And they got to Will Howard a lot that second half. And that really was the turning point of this whole game. And now it went from Ohio State pretty much dominating that whole first half. And it turned straight into Texas might end up winning this game second half. They might actually end up winning this game. And again, like Ohio State didn't score that whole third quarter. The whole third quarter, Ohio State went without a score. And again, they had a real success of moving moving the ball up and down the field. So that was surprising. But Texas did a real good job. That defense did a real good job second half and adjusting to Will Howard's game and how they were getting torched that first half and really adjusted. They did a real good job. Now, again, Quinn Ewers they were gaining momentum with 2.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Quinn Ewers led them all the way into the red zone. First and goal, they couldn't score. Second and goal, they couldn't score. Third and goal, Texas could not score. Now it's fourth and goal with less than 2.5 minutes left on that play clock. Texas is down by a touchdown. It's 21-14. Texas is down by a touchdown. Quinn Ewers takes the snap in the red zone, drops back, tries to get the ball off because he sees Jack Sawyer coming. Jack Sawyer is coming full head of steam towards Quinn Ewers, and Quinn Ewers could feel him coming. And Jack Sawyer just raced for the sack. Jack Sawyer ended up racing for the sack. Quinn Ewers got the ball off, but it was a fumble. Jack Sawyer picked the ball up, scoop and score, walk-off touchdown. Ohio State pretty much sealed the game. That was crazy. And honestly, a lot of people say it was a bad coaching by the Texas Longhorns coach. That play call, I don't know if it was first and goal or second and goal, where Texas Longhorns was on the goal line and they tossed it to the running back. and they didn't get it. So it was some bad play calling on Texas end, and but because of that, they ended up being in a fourth and goal situation. Jack Sawyer rushed the quarterback, and he forced the strip sack fumble, and he scooped and scored for 82 yards. And that pretty much sealed the game. And the funny thing about that is Jack Sawyer and Quinn Ewers were actually roommates when Quinn Ewers went to Ohio State for that brief short stint. So that was kind of funny too. That was a fun fact. But yeah, pretty much Ohio State pretty much ended that game. This was probably their biggest challenge that they faced throughout this whole playoffs. Again, and I only say that because we thought that Oregon and O State game was going to be a real good game, but the way how Ohio State just came out off all cylinders and really, they really blew Oregon off. They really blew them out. So we didn't expect that, but because of what they did, we thought heading into this Texas game, we thought they was going to probably do the same thing to Texas, but that necessarily wasn't the case throughout the majority of the whole game, and it ended up being a real good game until that fourth quarter with 2.5 minutes left, and everything just turned. So congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Ohio State Buckeyes will face off Monday night, January 20th, at Mercedes-Benz Stadiums against Notre Dame in the national championship. It will take place in Atlanta, January 20th. It's going to be a real good game. I still think Ohio State, we will win this game. We will be national champions in a long time. And Ryan Day will keep his job. Now I want to talk about Jeremiah Smith for just a little bit. Now, one thing Notre Dame will definitely have to see what Texas did. Texas had great success in shutting down freshman breakout star Jeremiah Smith. They did a real good job limiting him to only one catch and threw for 3 yards. Texas Longhorns defense did a real good job. That secondary did a real good job of isolating Jeremiah Smith and really just taking him out the game completely. So if Notre Dame want to have any type of small chance of winning this national championship game come January 20th, they will have to rip a page out of Texas defensive playbook and shutting down Jeremiah Smith. Because again, now this is Jeremiah Smith. This was a real big game for Jeremiah Smith. You got to understand, he's only 17, 18 years old, and this is big stage. He's in Texas. This is an away game for them. This is an away game for them. He's in a hostile environment like that. Texas, you know how Texas is. It's a hostile environment. So this was kind of like a wake up call. I'm glad that it happened to him, because this was kind of like a wake up call for him. He still is young. He still is young at the end of the day. He's 17, 18 years old, and that's a lot to take in. This is probably one of his biggest games yet that he ever played. So I think he's gonna be all right coming into the next game, this national championship. And I'm excited for this next game, see what he got to, overcome. And this is his adversity game right here. So y'all let me know in the comments what y'all thought about this game. Was it the best game that we didn't see this whole playoffs? Y'all let me know. Y'all think Ohio State gonna go all the way with it? But that is the SO show. Thank y'all for watching, and leave a like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what y'all think.